So the next presenter we have today is Sean Daly, and Sean worked on a project with Philip Chu. So I'm giving him control for screen sharing right now.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Sean, welcome. We don't see your webcam quite yet.
Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Everything looks great.
Perfect. All right. My name is Sean Daly. I'm a recent graduate from St. Olaf College with a computer science major. I worked on data visualization development and application with Dr. Philip Chu this summer. So I'll first give a little overview of my project. NOAA recently signed a cooperative agreement with Viking Cruises to help with the launch of their new Great Lake expeditions. These will be science-focused cruises with talks from researchers, animal banding, and plenty of ways for guests to learn while they're on board. NOAA will gain the use of another research vessel. They'll collect data using onboard sensors, and they'll be able to showcase their work to the guests that are on board. I worked on guiding the initial phases of this development of a visualization tool that will be on board. This will likely be a big touchscreen table that would show animations such as wind, currents, temperature, and ice cover for the Great Lakes area. I also spent time this summer developing a visualization program that will show water level data obtained from a meteotsunami buoy in Lake Michigan. My work this summer began with gaining some background knowledge about Gluro products, as well as reading books to better understand the field of data visualization. Next, I critiqued existing visualizations by the company that will assist with the development of the Viking product, and I passed on my recommendations. Finally, I programmed this tool to display water level for that meteotsunami detection buoy. My first task was to gain an in-depth understanding of NOAA's products, specifically Great Lakes animations, and to understand the data collection, processing, and display of this information. I spent quite a lot of time exploring the Great Lakes Coastal Forecasting System, or GLCFS website, and their data servers. I wrote a small script to scrape all the data visualizations from the website so I could easily just scroll through them and take notes. The questions I was asking are these three. First, who is this new product for? This chart table on board the vessel will have a different audience from the current audience of NOAA products. We have to understand how the audience of the existing products available now differ from the future passengers on this cruise. The current audience seem to use these products more for specific purposes and less for education or casual viewing. For example, fishermen may check the wind and currents, shipping companies will use ice data, and beachgoers will check temperatures. These users likely do so repeatedly, so they would be less concerned with the interface or with eye-catching visuals or having to have somewhat of a learning curve. On the other hand, the passengers on a cruise would like to see the products and be entertained and educated with eye-catching visuals and information displayed quickly. Next, we looked into which current products that NOAA has that could be adapted for use. NOAA has a huge library of products across many web pages. Some of the visualizations I've shown off to the right here. And we would like to choose some of these as a base for the new project. We focused on the GLCFS website and used some of those, specifically wind, currents, temperature, water levels, and ice cover. These would likely be the most engaging for the cruise ship passengers. We next investigated how we should change these existing products in order to better fit the setting, interface, and audience. The visualizations needed some modifications. For example, most public animations on the GLCFS website are lake-specific, while we'd like to at least have an option of viewing the selected data on every lake at once. Next, I'll give a little overview of the data analysis workflow. I'm going over this because we had to figure out where in this data analysis workflow the input for this new program would come from. Visualizations that are available on the NOAA website don't simply come straight from a buoy or a boat ready to display. Instead, there's a long process to make sure the data is ready, run it through models, and run it through software in order to get the final product. So initially we receive raw data from the buoy, vessel, or weather station, and it'll look something like this off to the right here. This data is not very human readable. It's tough to get an idea of what's really going on. Next, this data is pre-processed in order to be organized to feed into the model. This pre-processed data is run through the Finite Volume Community Ocean Model, or FVCOM, on NOAA supercomputers. FVCOM is a hydrodynamic modeling system that can make predictions based on input data, fill in gaps, and it lays the foundation for our visualization. It uses variable grid sizes, shown off to the right here, in order to focus the processing power of the supercomputer on areas like coasts that need the most data and have the most variability. From FVCOM, we will get a processed data file in a variety of formats. Right here off to the right, I have a netcdf file. That file is then ready to be fed into a visualizer program or a language, and it will be turned into a final product with some program that someone will write. After it's run through this, we get something that looks like this. And this animation would be ready to post on a website along with the necessary information and documentation. We concluded that for this future project, the processed data file output by the FVCOM system would likely be the input for this new visualization on board the vessel. At this point in the project, it was time for me to gain a better understanding of data visualization design. To do this, Dr. Chu had me read some of the work of Edward Tufte. Tufte is a statistician known as the leading expert on data visualization. I read Beautiful Evidence and the Visual Display of Quantitative Information. Tufte's book explored the field of data visualization by thoroughly critiquing both good and bad examples. He discusses examples from hundreds of years ago, such as Galileo, up to modern examples, such as how poor data communication may have helped lead to the Columbia disaster. He points out shortcomings and standout features of visualizations that I never would have picked up on before. After reading some of Tufte's work, I synthesized his points into a list of 18 things to look for when critiquing existing visualizations or when creating your own. Some of these are more obvious, such as, is the scale well chosen? Is the data distorted? Is there a clear purpose? Others are much easier to overlook, such as, are causality and mechanism explained? Are numbers and text integrated together, or are they separated? Are comparisons encouraged? Or is the data dense enough to take advantage of our eye's ability to intake a lot of data, or is it sparser than it could be? I also included some extremely obvious ones, such as, is your content even worth displaying? Or does your product actually show the content you were trying to display? These may seem very obvious, but it's worth keeping in mind because it's very easy when creating visualizations or looking at someone else's to get tunnel vision. And you might create a beautiful visualization, but show data that nobody needs to see, or your data gets lost in your design. So I used this list of criteria in order to analyze the company that will be contracting to build this new product. The company is Visuality. Visuality is a data visualization company that builds usually environmentally focused products to display complex data sets. They will be taking information from NOAA services and creating the touchscreen table that will be on board Viking's new ship. I used these guidelines to go through Visuality's past work and to get a better idea of what we should expect from their work and to prepare us for any additional guidance that we should provide them. My conclusion, after looking through and analyzing their past projects, is that they're a great choice for this undertaking. Most of their products perfectly illustrate most, if not all, of the 18 criteria I was looking for. Their visualizations are eye-catching, informative, well-documented, and engaging. They've got years of experience with similar project types, and they're flexible enough to be able to work with many different types of data sources and technologies. Although their products are generally very good, and I'm sure the results will be great, there are some small things that we should keep in mind when guiding the development. A few of their web pages they created had some issues. There were rare bugs, some poor choices of color that made comparing data difficult, some new data graphics that seemed to be created with looks prioritized over functionality, and other issues. Additionally, it's important to remember that most of their products have been web pages not meant for touchscreen use, and usually meant to be learned over time. We would like to make sure that the visualization is touch-friendly, immediately eye-catching, and easy to understand for everyone while still looking great. After this work, an urgent need for a visualization program came up. We decided to shift focus over to this in order to give a program for a new meteor tsunami detection buoy that was deployed in Lake Michigan. Meteor tsunamis are little talked about and not very well understood events which can cause flooding and coastal damage on Great Lakes. A meteor tsunami is an event where a large wave or series of waves are created due to sudden change in air pressure, usually from a large storm. Recently, this meteor tsunami detection buoy was deployed in Lake Michigan. It's the first in the Great Lakes, and there was no program in order to display the data coming off of this buoy. I was tasked with writing this program to display water level over time. I first began by reading a 30-page manual on the formatting, timing, and meaning of the data that comes off of the buoy. This program will likely be used to analyze these events and to better understand them. I'm going to go through a quick demo of how this program works and what it will be used for. So I'll start the demo now. Here we have a file containing data from the buoy. It's not easy to read this or interpret, and it's nearly impossible to see trends in the data. Here's the code I wrote. I wrote this program in Python using tkinter for the user interface. Matplotlib creates the graphs. This program takes in a folder of output files that were taken from the server for the buoy. Here are some of those files in a folder. A main challenge in developing this application was these files, and especially the difference between them. Some are quite long, such as this one, while others are much shorter. And even more so, each report could have different number of data points, different formatting, and it's not uniform across all today's reports. So if we run the program now, in a few seconds, you should see a window pop up that will ask us to choose a folder. So I'll go ahead and select the folder I was showing earlier with all of those data points. And then next we'll choose a time frame. So we select that folder and then we'll choose a time frame. So this lets us choose if we want to view by report. And if we view by report, this is each of the lines starting with $, and that's a single message from the buoy. We're going to do that mode for this demo. Then we'll navigate to June 18th. I'm choosing this day because it has plenty of data, and also the alarm for meteor tsunamis was triggered. So we want to see why. And immediately we'll get a graph, and this corresponds to the first line in the data here. As you can see, the data on this graph matches line 1. And if I go ahead and push next, we're going to go on to the next graph, and you'll see this will correspond to line 2. I'll click through the rest of these, and we can get to the next data display mode. So this buoy can display can send data in multiple different modes depending on what is happening. This is tsunami report mode. Additional data is being sent because we'd like to be able to further analyze when the alarm was triggered. This happens for 24 hours after the alarm was triggered to give us a little more information. I'll click through all of these report modes until I can get to what is displayed when a meteor tsunami is detected. This graph shows what is shown here on line 109 visually. There's 240 data points, and instead of just that mess of numbers, now we can see clear peaks and dips in the data, and this could be used to further analyze what is happening during meteor tsunamis and hopefully better understand these events. So I've just demonstrated graphs by report mode. So that is each of these and $3 and $2. This program is on the way to being expanded to go by all the data in a day displayed in a graph, or by week or by month. I don't have that ready for demo right now. I can show the output of the day mode here. So this is across a much bigger timescale, and we can more easily see trends. This should be valuable in order to understand meteor tsunamis, and hopefully will be used in the future to further this research. So, to summarize, I spent my summer gaining a detailed understanding of the data collection and display at GLERL, developed my knowledge of the field of data visualization, analyzed and advised on existing information, and wrote a flexible visualization program. I'd like to thank everyone involved in this awesome program, especially my mentor, Dr. Philip Chu, for a truly enjoyable summer that has given me skills I'll use for years to come. Thank you for listening. I can take any questions now.
Great job, Sean. Thank you so much. Anybody with a question for Sean, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll allow you to unmute yourself. Right, I don't see any hands going up. So again, something comes to mind for Sean, please feel free to enter that in the question box and we will get it over to him to answer. Thanks, Sean. Wonderful job.